Some lines have been crossed. A recap of Cross, Season 2, Episode 3. When it comes to answering questions about what's actually happening, Cross Season 2 has been quite silent. Naturally, given that we are still in the early phases, this is to be expected, but Episode 3, Feed, makes some respectable strides in this direction. The plot is cleverly divided between Rebecca and Donnie's journey to Mexico and Cross and Kayla's investigation, which makes the two halves of the story more cohesive. The season's longest episode to yet, this one feels the densest. It also has the greatest development in the relationship between Cross and Kayla, which takes a significant turn and is undoubtedly going to backfire if what I said about Mastermind proves to be true. However, we will deal with that issue when it arises. Let's dissect everything in the meanwhile. Because the coordinates on the documents in Lincoln's hideout sent Cross and Kayla to a little border town just a short distance from Mexico, we're in Texas for this episode. For initially unknown reasons, Lincoln is following a truck, and Cross, Kayla, and Samson, who has joined the chase, are chasing after him. The Department of Homeland Security team, which includes one especially problematic agent named Larsen, also supports the team, though I'm not sure whether that's the correct word. He tries to shoot Lincoln when he mistakes the camera he's holding for a gun, wants to call off the stakeout after it doesn't work out in the first 5 minutes, and then makes some much more serious mistakes that we'll discuss in a moment. There are many innocent individuals on the truck, and Lincoln has a camera because he is attempting to record a child trafficking operation. Because of Larsen's meddling, some shooters ambush Lincoln, Cross, and Samson, blindside them, and start shooting. As the suspects run away, the gang pursues them, which ultimately results in the truck being overturned. All the people inside are spared, but one of the traffickers uses a young boy as a human shield, and Larsen puts the child's life in danger to shoot the assailant. Cross finds this annoying even before he watches the Lincoln interview and essentially ensures that it ends in failure. During this period, Rebecca and Donnie, who are in Mexico, are the focus of Cross Season 2, Episode 3. They are searching for Francisco, a survivor who Rebecca's mother rescued years ago. Rebecca is on a mission to exact revenge on the persons responsible for the disappearance of numerous children from this village. Being able to connect with the culture she is safeguarding and become closer to her roots makes the journey extremely personal for Rebecca. To give Rebecca more time to enjoy the local flavor, Donnie even offers to kill the next target by himself. However, he makes a botch of the hit and is hurt. Nevertheless, the task is completed, and learning more about her mother and her past only serves to reaffirm Rebecca's belief in the goal. Am I the only one who believes that these two could have a ghost of a point? Since nothing significant occurred in the previous episode, I didn't bring it up, but Samson is rather upset with Cross because he has known since he was a young boy that his mother is still alive. Cross had overheard her visit to Nana Mama once while they were children. LaDonna took the money and fled, even though Nana Mama was willing to give her more than she could afford in exchange for signing over her parental rights. Samson disagrees, but Cross never told him because he believed that dealing with the truth would be more difficult than not knowing. Even though LaDonna's claims of innocence don't seem to be very credible, he still feels obligated to investigate her case. Despite his apparent lack of interest in her, she is adamant that she did nothing wrong and is counting on Samson to prove it. Is it possible for a woman to have entirely changed her behavior after acting in such a manner toward Samson? Or is this really a last-ditch effort to use her son's suffering to absolve herself? We'll see in time. As is to be expected, Cross and Kayla wind up in bed together after spending the evening in Texas letting off steam. This has been anticipated for some time. Kayla even states as much the following morning, but despite the predictability, it works because of the genuine connection between Aldous Hodge and Ilona Tal and the quality of their hookup session. The following morning is unavoidably embarrassing, but there isn't time to dwell on it since Larsen, the blatantly dishonest DHS agent, snatched Lincoln out of custody and made an attempt to escape. However, he didn't make it far before Lincoln reportedly killed him and fled. Lincoln shows up at Rebecca's aunt's home at the very end of Feed. It's important to note that Lincoln has portrayed Rebecca as a minor divinity of sorts. The current working hypothesis holds that he sacrificed his own 3 fingers to her in order to strengthen his faith in her purpose. That type of devotion can only be risky, and Duran's future is unlikely to be bright given Rebecca's newfound zeal. Because vigilantes naturally exhibit traits or ways of thinking that we can identify with and comprehend, they are more interesting to watch than the typical serial killer. It's difficult not to feel sorry for Luz when they begin with her enforcing some sort of justice on a wealthy billionaire who is trafficking females on his private island, on the nose, huh? These days, there is a greater divide than ever between the working class and the very wealthy. The privileged are out of control, the disenfranchised continue to suffer on a regular basis, and moral decay is more common than something as basic as kindness. Identity and vengeance collide, and Cross understands the nuance. More than anything, though, we live in a moment when we are often asking ourselves things like, what is the difference between justice and law? And what does justice mean or even look like these days? And that's where this season, considering that it was shot a few years ago, has a remarkable grasp of current events. But it's uncannily similar to a lot of things we're going through right now. Because she is driven by justice, purpose, and yes, retaliation, Luz doesn't seem like a villain, and Cross hasn't yet identified her as a violent criminal. They are focused entirely on Esteban. Their assumption that this murderer is a man is not shocking. We learn more about Luz's workings from the first 3 episodes, which create an engaging universe around her. And at its core is a deep sorrow at the death of her mother, Gabriella. However, she also bears a deep-seated plight that is recognizable and relevant in many ways. In addition to the personal injustice of losing her mother, there is also a larger injustice to her people, community, and other people, children in particular, who resemble her and could have been her. Beneath her need for revenge, Luz harbors a very primal desire. It really came to pass when she was driven by intelligence to Mexico, specifically her mother's hometown, without her realizing it. Cross uses Ladink stories to deepen culture and heritage. This subtle glimpse into the mind of a young woman who feels cut off from her identity and origin and clings to what little she can, some inherent diaspora issues that are deeply ingrained for many, was like going back to a location that doesn't fully belong to her. At least that's how I felt when I saw Luz, especially when she went to a quinceañera that she probably never had, strolled the same streets as her mother, and struggled with how losing her mother at such a young age seemed like losing pieces of her own lineage, too. Even if it was heartwarming to see the city embrace her like a lost kid, Rebecca was still dealing with that, or at least trying not to, and was very much alive. Cross has always been genuinely black and unapologetic. It's good to see them deliver compelling tales about brown folks this season with equal sincerity and consideration. The reference may seem corny, but it already evokes the ideas of Black Panther as they permeate Wakanda forever and the junction of black and brown narratives. Traveling to her mother's hometown seems to be a break from the task that Donnie, Luz's aunt and close friend, is assisting her with. However, there is a good chance that it will connect. Debauchery and billionaires. She allegedly killed a man for sex trafficking, and now we're looking into child labor and exploitation that began when her mother rescued people from dangerous workplaces. According to Luz, Lance is a multimillionaire who gets whatever comes his way. As a warning, she sent Lance the fingers of the last man she killed. Cross and Kayla are working on this case together for precisely this reason. Currently, Lance prefers to present himself as a good-hearted, intelligent inventor who is working to improve the world. But being a millionaire comes at the expense of other people, leaving a legacy of injustice, pain, and other hardships in your wake. Lance had a pal who was a child predator and sex trafficker. Stories about him connecting Lance with those who could identify his staff members as critical workers during the COVID-19 outbreak are insufficient to make up for that. He is a slimeball, yet he keeps making everything he does seem selfless. Yes, I adore Matthew Lillard. The man is already quite good in this capacity and is an icon. Cross and Kayla have their hands full trying to keep Lance alive while pursuing Luz, and if she gets her way, Lance will be on borrowed time. Bobby Trey and Kayla are an unexpectedly dynamic duo. Kayla is managing drama by herself as well. The bad religion plot is introduced in Harrow, and it picks up speed in Scatter. What sort of dubious activities did Kayla engage in? Everyone is terrified of this covert operation, whatever it is, and Kayla's boss, Roy, is on her ass about hiding her tracks or else she will be exposed. Even worse, one of the other co-workers who was involved shot herself as a result. I'm relieved that she's keeping Cross out of it for the time being because it's so messy. However, she was able to receive support from Bobby Trey. One of my favorite characters is Bobby Trey. When I see Johnny Ray Gill on my screen, I truly grin. One of the series' most intriguing dynamics is already being created by the Kraken's release. Bobby Trey is the only person who can solve this mastermind enigma, and he never shies away from a challenge. Additionally, there's usually a reason behind his insanity. I was naive enough to believe that he was simply enjoying himself and getting out of jail, but in reality, Maddie was the most well-treated mark because he singled her out to gain access to her son's data. Kayla can still dedicate enough attention to the main case now that Bobby Trey is involved. However, it's been fascinating to watch how her bond with Cross has grown. Complicated, steamy, sexy, Cross and Kayla. A boozy night at a honky-tonk saloon in Texas paid off for everyone on the Kayla train. Kayla's connection was arguably the most sultry of the sex scenes that have already been shown. However, Kayla is right about them, they need to get that out of their system. They aren't designed to be anything else. Cross still harbors affections for Elle as well. Everything about Cross and Elle's circumstances is difficult. He is unsure of what further he can do to make things right, and she is unable to get past the betrayal and falsehoods. However, they are likewise unable to avoid each other. They are family, and Elle finds herself in a curious situation where she is unsure of where she belongs and where the Cross family is. They have an interesting arrangement. Elle desires limits, but they are unattainable because Cross's family still feels like their own and depends on her. Her absence from the children's life is also unfair. Their circumstances are complex. You are always a part of the Cross family once you join. That's also where John's and Elle's plots complement each other. At all costs, keep John Samson safe. Although he has been a member of the Cross family since he was a little child, his life has completely transformed after learning that his mother is still alive. I felt terrible for John. He believed his mother was dead all his life. That's what Nana told him. However, when LaDonna DuVernay begs for him by name because she was arrested by the police for murder, he learns the truth. His mother is not only still alive, but she also requires his assistance. Then he discovered that not only had his own mother, whom he loved, lied to him, but that Cross was also aware of the truth but had kept it from him. Cross believed he was shielding John, but John was correct when he said that he would have told his brother the truth because he would have been there to console him after the news broke his heart. They had always been like way toward one another. John has always been considered as Cross's pillar of support, and I love watching him work through his personal problems at the moment. Beyond Cross, he has his own arc and support system. He and Malika have a wonderful connection because she pushes him when he needs it. The fact that she saw through his abandonment concerns and assured him that she would not be pushed away by him was the true proof that she is perfect for him. John can see the flaws in this situation, but he isn't quite ready to have a serious conversation with his mother just yet. It has some emotional beats, but it's not as exciting as Luz's case. Will Cross end up at a crossroads? Ironically, Cross didn't have as much concentration as usual because these first 3 episodes created numerous arcs and covered a lot of territory. But it still worked because he was centered enough.